Musicians Co- Let me do that again. Hello, everyone. We are the Canadian Musicians Co-operative, a group of creatives that help our artistic community achieve excellence together and reduce the barriers to access that independent artists and arts professionals face in the 21st century. This workshop is presented as part of our summer professional development programming series. We are excited to introduce our guest speaker for today's workshop, Luke Fair. Luke Fair is a mixer and producer dedicated to being the bridge between what you're hearing in your head and what comes through your speakers. He believes musical storytelling should be accessible to anyone with a story to tell. Removing technical barriers, he acts as a translator to help artists turn their ideas into meaningful songs while using language that makes sense to them. His work spans from pop single to feature-length film score, collaborating with artists, producers, and composers in the local Toronto scene and around the world. He's committed to fostering community and support for artists navigating an increasingly challenging music industry. You can learn more and listen to his work at rosettasound.com, and you can message Luke on Instagram at LukeFair to ask questions, chat, or book a call. So welcome, Luke, and I'll hand it off to you.
To be sharing my system audio because I'm going to share some examples and you guys will hear music. So if anyone else talks, you can hear yourself echoed back at yourself. But let's get going. I first of all, before I forget, thank you to the co-op for having me, and thank you everyone here for being interested enough to listen to me. I Emma basically told you everything about me already. Um, but I am a mix engineer and a producer. I do my work under the name Rosetta Sound. I've been full-time freelancing since COVID for 6 years. And I've worked with like a lot of artists. And I say that because I have felt that the overwhelming sentiment when I'm working with people is that they are scared of the mixing process. It feels like magic when I ask people about their songs. I get the answer like, "Oh, I don't know what to tell you because I don't know about mixing." And I try to say, "You don't need to tell me about mixing. You don't need to know about mixing. You just need to know about your song." So and understand that you don't need to know all the technical stuff. So today, I'd love to help you understand the mixing as a creative process, not as a technical process, but like something that is part of making art. Um, and understand what you want from a mix, what's possible, and how to communicate that to an engineer, how the process works, how to work with something. So hopefully, like you will be able to hire someone, communicate your vision, and then get a mix you're happy with, and you're going to feel confident in doing that and not feel scared of it. And like ultimately, the real important thing is that you're going to understand mixing past the technical, like, does it sound good, to like actually understand how to use it creatively to tell your story, to get your message across, to help your music like connect with people, which is um, the most important thing I think there is to learn about mixing. And if you're not an artist working with an engineer, but like you're interested in mixing yourself, I think this is still very important because it's um, there's complicated tools. Mixing is something that like there's a lot to learn about, and it's easy to just think technically and think about the tools and just think about that forever. But I think it's very important for everyone involved, the engineer and the artist, to get past that, learn the rules, and then forget about all the rules and like get back to making art and making creative decisions. So like that, I think is the biggest thing to learn is mixing is more than sounding good or professional. It is much more than that. It like basically sounding professional is the bare minimum. Like that, if you are a serious artist releasing something on a streaming service, that's going to be expected of you from the listener. Of course, you should sound professional. You're putting something out that I'm supposed to listen to. It's also something you should expect of every mix engineer that is willing to charge you money. They should be able to make your sound professional. That's not like where it should end. That should be the baseline of what you need to expect from them. And then they should be able to take you further than that. Um, like sounding a good sounding mix or a professional sounding mix is not a reason to listen to a song. It's just a reason not to like immediately turn it off. Um, like, of course, we want that if someone's listening to a playlist and they hear Sabrina Carpenter and then your song um, comes on right after that, we want them to keep listening and not be like, oh, what is this? This sounds way more amateur than what I was listening to, and turn it off. So your mix definitely needs to sound professional. It can't be painful to listen to. It can't sound weird. You have to be able to hear everything. But that's it. It's not a reason that someone's going to love your song and listen to it. We want people to choose to listen to your song over the Sabrina Carpenter song, and actually go and put it on themselves. So that's why I do want to make the point that the presentation of what you're saying is almost or just as important as what you're saying. It's the tone of voice. It's like I can say the same thing to you in two very different ways in my voice, and they're going to mean something very different. That's what sarcasm is. Um, I like to make analogies, so I'm going to be making analogies a lot. Um, but I like to compare music to like film because it helps. Film has so many people working on it that like the steps of the process and the jobs are very clearly defined because there's one person that works on each little thing. In music, the fact that we can have one person and make like the entire song and do all the jobs, it kind of makes it confusing sometimes. Um, but so I like to compare to film where if you have a award-winning script, like it's going to be the greatest movie because you've written that amazing script, but you don't know anything about how to visually storytell, and you just like get to your cinematographer or whatever it is and just say like, I don't know anything about cameras, but like I have the best script and the best actors, so just make sure everything they do is on camera. You're going to have this like award-winning drama script that's shot like a sitcom, and it's not really going to make anyone cry like it should. Like you to have a full movie that connects with people, every part of the job has to be doing things for a reason to connect with the person that is watching that movie or listening to that song. So I want you to understand mixing every little and also recording and production is just the sound of your record is all every decision is can help to accentuate the feelings that you're going to help people feel with your song or the message you're trying to get across. It can help that or it can not do that if you don't think of that or if the engineer isn't thinking of that. At the if you're just trying to make a good or professional mix, um, at the very least, it's just not going to add creatively to the song. At the worst, it's actually going to ruin it or make the song feel like a different thing. Um, so quickly, let's set the boundaries of where the sort of jobs or processes end and begin. Like these are the main three. Production, you can put recording in there. Um, but what you're actually focusing on, and another analogy, I'm gonna make an analogy to making soup because Emma's favorite food is soup. In production, you are you're focused on the individual ingredients. If you think of every instrument or vocal part or whatever as an individual ingredient, you're focused on the tone and character of that thing and what it's adding to the soup. But you're not just gonna like say, I want onions in the soup. Like you're gonna go further than that. You're gonna say, do I want green onions or white onions or yellow onions? And should I saute the onions? Am I gonna dice up the garlic or whatever? And you're gonna like that's what you should be delivering to the mix is like fully prepared ingredients. When you get to the mix, the mixing is about relationship between ingredients. So
Wait,
you
I'm so sorry to interrupt. Can you click the setting to make the video on your screen less choppy?
Yes,
Thank you.
because I am choppy.
A little bit.
How do I get back to
Speaking of
that?
soup and chopping ingredients,
Did it do that when we tried it though?
you were
Optimize for
fine in
video
the
sharing.
breakout room, but it's a little bit
Now
choppy
that
now that
there's
we're
all the
moving.
people in, yeah.
It's just the audio is not connecting right now. Just stand by. He's just gonna leave and rejoin, so that all of the audio and video will be back on track. So just stand by. Thank you for your patience, everyone. We just want to make sure that you guys get the good audio and video. think he's coming back soon. Oh, there you go. Okay. Yay. Hello. Can you hear us okay? Just waiting for the audio to connect. Hello.
Hi.
We can hear you. Yay.
My computer did not like that.
Oh no. Sorry about that.
I think we're back.
Okay, they can hear you. Live stream team can hear you.
Okay, well, I will try to screen share again and see what happens.
Yeah.
We are back. Am I?
You're not on the slideshow,
Hi.
but now you're on the slideshow.
We'll see. Hopefully it's not choppy and hopefully
It's
you
a
can
little
hear
bit
everything.
choppy.
Well, that's as best it's going to get because I have that setting turned on.
Okay.
But I'm going to turn back on the thing so you're going to echo again, but we'll keep going where we left off.
Yes. Thanks so much.
Okay, where were we? We were here. Okay, soup. We're back. So in mixing, we're really focused on the taste of the whole soup, the sound of the song as a whole. So we're not necessarily going to be wanting to create tones of individual instruments, and like decide what the character of a thing is. It should have its role already, but we're focused on how those things relate to each other, and we have to choose priorities. What's the focus? Everything in mixing is a compromise. So it is really about like uh, the soup can't be salty and sweet all at the same time. So what's the character of this song? Does it want to be really salty? Okay, let's make salt forward. And then we're not going to talk about mastering a lot today, but just quickly to know what it is in the analogy still. Um, it's like you've cooked the soup and like you're bringing it out to the person to their table. Right before you bring it out, you're just going to bring it by like the head chef because they have the most experience. You're going to be like, just grab a little taste and tell me if it's good. And it could be perfect. Um, they could know with their experience, like, you know what, actually just add a little extra salt. They're also going to be the ones who have the extra thought about, you know what, the by itself, this soup tastes really good. But if they have it in between this appetizer and before the steak, it's going to feel a little bland. So just to stack up to the other things, put a little extra salt in, which that analogy means like the mastering engineer is going to really focus on if your song shows up in a playlist with other people's songs, is it going to make sense? Is it going to stack up with other people's music? Is it going to make sense in the flow of your album too? So those are the things. Let's get into examples because I want you to know like what's creatively possible in a mix, so you know what you can do and what you can ask for and what you can expect. We're going to start with some more drastic examples. We'll just do a like full before and after mix. Like we're going to start with a rough mix or a pre-mix, whatever you want to call it, what the artist and producer has ended up with at the end of the production, and then we'll see the final mix. And we'll start with Emma's song. This song, Garden, is streaming now, so go check it out. but we will hear the bounce that Emma had before I started, and then we're going to hear the final mix. And I am purposely not showing you like rough mixes that are absolutely horrible, just to like impress you with my big change. I purposely am showing rough mixes that are great. They are songs that know what they are, so that we can actually get into some nuance and detail of like what can a mix do. So let me play this. This is the pre-mix.
Walk the trail of wet tissues. I can't help but miss you. These blisters still burning new shoes. I can try moving forward, keep pushing this boulder when all I wanna do is give up.
That sounds really great, actually. I'll tell you what I was thinking before I play this, and then I can flip back and forth with all the examples. In where we start in the verse, it's verse 2, feels really great. So this mix actually isn't going to be a huge change in that verse section. It's just kind of like sweetening and making sure the priorities are there. But when we launch into the bridge or whatever that next section is called, I notice that in that pre-mix, the performance, the vocal wants to like get a lot bigger, and the track doesn't really help out that much. So what I've done in the mix is like the mix is pushing the song where it wants to go emotionally so that it can actually grow and feel that much more.
Walk the trail of wet tissues. I can't help but miss you. These blisters still burning new shoes. I can try moving forward, keep pushing this boulder when all I wanna do is get.
Just a quick back and forth for a reminder.
Walk the trail of wet tissues. I can't help but miss you. These blisters still burning new shoes. I can try moving forward, keep pushing this boulder when all I wanna do is give up.
So actually, maybe in the mix there are some things I'm making smaller, but that is for like the moment of when we launch in. I really wanted that moment to be like a big moment.
I can try
from here.
I can try moving forward,
The song can grow that much more. Another example, this is a Robbie Finnegan song. It's not actually out yet. So just, wait until it's out, then go check it out. And this is a rough mix that I wanted to show because it's one that shows that the mix isn't always creating the energy for the song. This is a rough mix that was super loud, super bright, has all this energy from the jump. So the mix actually was more about taking things away and like focusing in on priorities. So quick.
If I'm gonna show you who I am, damn, better make it better than your next man. Taking all the boxes, you're a red flag. My own worst enemy. Fuck it up, oh, in my mind. Never grow up.
Right? I wanted to show like if a bunch of people heard that, they would like, that's releasable. It doesn't mean that an unmixed track maybe doesn't already sound great. But how much better can we make it? How much like more, how can we make it connect with the audience more? So there was a lot of energy in the percussion and drums that I thought was distracting me from the vocal. And then when we launch into the chorus, it didn't have a lot of space to grow. So that's what this is.
If I'm gonna show you who I am, damn, better make it better than your next man. Taking all the boxes, you're a red flag. My own worst enemy. Fuck it up, oh, in my mind.
So quickly, like if I flip back and forth, we might actually lose energy in this section.
Damn, better make it better than your next man. Taking all the boxes, you're a red flag.
Like all the high-end percussion goes away. But what the good thing is like the vocal is now the thing, which it should be.
All the boxes, you're a red flag. My own worst enemy. Fuck it up,
And then it can like really grow in that when the chorus hits.
enemy. Fuck it up, oh,
that I didn't feel was satisfying enough.
My own worst enemy. I fuck it up, oh, in my mind. Never grow up, a problem child.
Right? So, like, doesn't have to be this giant change. You can have a great sounding song already. Doesn't mean that the mix can't like really elevate it still. Let's quickly go through the basic tools, just so I don't want you to feel like mixing is magic. How does it work? I don't even understand any of this stuff. We won't get like super technical. The important thing for you as an artist is to know, like, how do these things relate to making your song feel different? How can you talk about, like, I want my vocal to feel closer or whatever, and like, just so you know a little bit about like, how is that done? Is that even possible? So like, honestly, these are kind of in order of like how essential they are, just the basic things. Each time I add a new one, it's like I could maybe just do a mix with that, but it would be nice to have this next thing and nice to have the next thing. You know what volume is already. Like, that's the simplest thing, is just like volume knobs for each instrument. You already know what that is. There's EQ, there is compression, and then there's like space, reverbs and delays. And quickly, EQ is basically frequency dependent volume. It's just a volume knob for different frequencies, for bass and treble and all the stuff. We're going to use that to shape the tone and the character of individual instruments, but also we're going to use it to fit things within the mix. A lot of the times, an instrument might have a bunch more of what we need, and we have to actually like make it smaller to fit in. Or a lot of the times, it is hard to hear that thing in the mix because there's a lot going on, and we have to like use an EQ to poke something out. Where in solo, it might be really harsh and like not nice sounding, but in the context of the song, it allows us to hear that thing. And here, like emotionally, these are all the things we can like affect with just an EQ. I can make your vocal, let's just talk about vocals because it's the easiest. I can make your vocal feel bigger or smaller, closer or further. It can sound sharp, it can sound hollow, it can sound more aggressive, it can sound more relaxed. It can have more detail, or I can dull it out and make it relaxed and further away. Compression is dynamics control for like controlling loudness of a thing. We're gonna like use that for dynamics to control your performance. So if you are singing really loudly and singing really quietly at different parts of the song, this can even that out so that you sit in the right spot of the song through the whole thing. But we can also use compression for character, like to control the character or something. So again, a lot of the same things. But to actually get, like, if you told me I want the vocal to sound closer, I would do a little bit with an EQ, a little bit with compression, a little bit with reverb, which we'll get into next. But I can do a lot of these same things and make the vocal feel different based on how I compress it, and compressing it more or less. There's also a couple things at the end there that are like some common problems where if you feel that when you get a mix back, this will help you know that it's probably like over compression or just the wrong type of compression. Your vocal can feel congested. You can feel stuffed up. It can feel flat and just sort of like boring. It can also just get straight up distorted. And if something feels weak, it might actually be that it's not compressed enough. In the context of everything else that maybe is really powerful and even, if you have something that's not compressed enough and is really too dynamic, then sometimes it's going to just dip too low and get too quiet, and sometimes it's going to be loud and it just doesn't sit right. Spatial effects is reverb and delay. It's like placing a sound into an environment. It really affects how it feels. Like, there is a big difference between you like screaming at me in an elevator and you like yelling from across a giant church. Like, that feels different. To me, the like intention of it is going to feel different to me. So it really will make a song feel different. There are realistic reverbs that we can use to actually, like, it will sound to your ear, and like trick your brain into thinking something is further away and something is closer, even though it was recorded right into the mic. There are also like more stylized reverbs and delays, or just like more primitive technology that we still kind of use, like things from the 50s, because for the specific reason that they aren't realistic, because we can use this space effect to just like, if I want to make the vocal feel more important in the song, but I don't want it to get washed out and sound further away and sound like just not really up in my face anymore, I can use an older style reverb to make it last longer. It will expand like stereo, like get wider. It's just going to take up more space in the song, and it will grab your attention more. It'll feel like it is more the focus, but it won't actually like put it far away. So if you're communicating to your engineer of like, I do want this thing to feel important. I want it to feel huge. I want it to feel expansive and like larger than life. But I don't want that to like mean that you can't understand my lyrics, or like I lose all the detail and the breadth of my voice. We can actually do both at the same time. If you want detail in your vocal, it doesn't mean that it has to be dry. So let's get into some more examples, and more nuanced examples. And just quickly, before we do that, this is the most important thing that anyone has to understand, just about like recorded music in general. Like, it is about compromise. Recorded music is a finite thing. Like, there's only so much frequencies, there's only so much volume. It is a container that is finite. So you like, it is impossible just to have more of everything. If you get a mix back and you like this and you like that and you like this, you can't want more of it all. First of all, more of one thing almost always means less of something else. So you have to have your priorities in check and know like what is important for the song. If you love the feeling of that guitar part, and you maybe want more of that, you still have to know, if I have more guitar part in that section, it might actually mean less vocal, less focus on the vocal. And we're constantly like faced with decisions of like, I like this, but I also like this, and I have to decide what's more important. Also about the like finite thing, back to the soup. Like, if we're making a soup in a pot, yes, we can add more salt and it will get more salty. But if we want more salt and more sugar and more onion and more garlic, it's not really going to change the taste because you're adding more of everything. And at a certain point, the pot's just going to overflow and you're going to make a mess, which is the same with like recorded music. At a certain point, if you just get more volume of everything, there is a ceiling and we're going to smash it up against the ceiling and it's just going to be a mess. Again, like I said, we hear everything in context. More of one thing is less of the other thing. A lot of the times in mixing, the way to improve, let's say, the kick drum sound and make it more punchy is to do nothing to the kick drum, and it's to adjust the bass guitar. A lot of the times that we want to make one thing sound better, the reason it doesn't sound better right now is because of something else is like competing with it. And again, choose priorities. So now that we know that, let's get into some more examples. This is a song called Haunted by Fox Rivette. It's out now. The whole album is out now. It's called I Don't Know Where I Left My Body. Definitely check it out. It's really great. Put your good listening ears on right now, because these are more subtle examples. I'm going to be taking you through mix revisions, basically. Like, the before will be an already mixed thing. It's just an early revision. And then I'm going to talk about an interesting note that I got that helped me understand what the priorities are, how to make a very subtle change that will take a great sounding mix that maybe could have been done, and you might hear it and think, this should have just been released. What is wrong with that? And it's a subtle emotional thing that helped me get to what the artist actually wanted, which means the song is telling their story a little bit better and feeling like they wanted to. Also, this first one, hopefully you can hear it over Zoom. I think it's the subtlest change in this whole thing. And don't worry if you just literally can't hear the difference. Maybe I should have picked a better example, but we'll see. So here's the first mix that I sent. Just a little bit of the chorus. Really great song, really great production, all around awesome. This is the first mix. The only, like, I didn't get a lot of direction from Vox about this song. It was like urgent and we needed to go. And there's also a lot of their other music that I could reference. So basically they just said, this song is just a banger. Like it just needs to be a banger. So this first mix was like really focused on just, I want to make you dance and that's it. There's a lot of focus on the drums and the bass and like the groove of it and the bounce of it. And there's, what I found out, too little focus on the vocal. And the note that I got from Vox was perfect because they said, can the vocal take a step forward? It wasn't, can you turn up the vocal? Can the vocal take a step forward means something different to me. Because it's more than just a little more volume. It was an EQ change to make the vocal a little closer. It was a priority change. It was going to tell me not just do something to the vocal, but also like do things to everything else around it so that I can make sure the vocal is prioritized. And what I found is that I thought banger, and maybe compared to Fox's other songs, this is just a banger. But compared to everyone else's banger, this song is like, it is still story first. It's like lyric vocal first. They want you to feel the vocal performance and what they're saying. And then it's also going to make you dance as a secondary thing. Now I can play this, but I'll have to go back and forth because this one's really subtle. But like if I'm going to lead you a little bit, it is, there are times in the before where in the performance, the vocal might duck a little bit too low. And the song is really telling you like, I didn't care that much to make sure you hear every single syllable of the vocal. I cared more that like the drums felt big the whole time. And in the after, it actually is purposely making the track underneath feel a little smaller. And it's really the priority that like every single breath and detail of the vocal is heard and felt throughout the whole time. I'll skip a little bit because I want to get you into the chorus.
You've done, you killed everything I wanted. It's impossible for me to recover. Gonna hide myself under the covers. Oh, 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 I know you're just a ghost and I killed this love a long time ago. But you...
So I'll go back and forth a couple times and I'll look up Emma, like maybe nod at me if you actually hear a difference. And if you're like, this is too subtle, then I'll just move on.
I heard it.
That whispery part is a good, I'll just replay that because in the before, it's not like, I'm not making sure you hear it.
It's impossible for me to recover. Gonna hide myself under the covers. Oh, 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 I know you're just a ghost and I killed this love a long time ago. But you...
Also, I don't know how much latency or delay there is on this thing. It's going to be really confusing if you're seeing the visual switch, not at the same time as you're hearing the switch. I want to see maybe, I mean, it'll be synced up in the video after this if you want to check back later. And possibly I can figure out if I can put these on my website later so that you can come and actually just like click yourself and play around with it. Because I find it's way easier when you're in control of when it's going to change.
We have a couple of reactions in the chat saying that they hear.
Okay, great. I get to tell my girlfriend that she just has bad ears because I was testing with her and she's like, I can't hear. So good job. Well, you're all artists, so good. You have good ears. The next one more example, which is actually like the opposite. This is a song called "Falling for You" by Haley Henrique. Also really, really great. Check it out. And it was the opposite note, basically, where I started with my instincts of let's make this a pop, bright, confident vocal. And we had a talk about how that wasn't the thing. So let me play the before first.
You only want me when it's easy for you. Say that you love me, but you met someone new. Just don't let me fall if you're not gonna stay.
Really great. She has such a great voice that I assumed, like, let's make sure every detail is heard. But when I talked to her and the producer, we talked about the feeling after the first mix, and it was that story-wise, this way the vocal was mixed was making her sound too confident, too sure of herself. She was on top of the rest of the band, where the producer said, this feels a little bit like the band is backstage and the performance is like her by herself on stage with a spotlight on her. And what they wanted was like, let's bring the band on stage. Let's bring her back into the band. And emotionally, she's actually much more unsure about what she's talking about. We want her to be like putting an arm up a little bit emotionally of like, I don't want you to be too close to me. In the before, she's like singing right into my ear. So clearly she's like pretty comfortable with how she's feeling. And in the after, we want her to be hiding inside the comfort of the band a little bit. So there was a like purposeful decision to like, maybe some things like the acoustic guitar or whatever can be brighter than her and maybe in front of her, and we want her to be inside.
You only want me when it's easy for you. Say that you love me, but you met someone new.
I'll go back and forth.
It's easy. You only want me when it's easy for you. Say you want me when it's easy for you. Say that you love me, but you met someone new. Just don't let me fall if you're not gonna stay. Just don't let me fall if you're not gonna stay. Just run away like every other day. Just run away like every other day. Every other day. Run away like every other day. Every other day. Every other day.
So that was a weird one where like just kind of comparing that, if you don't really know what she's trying to say, you might think that I messed it up and like put them the wrong way and that the before is actually better sounding because just like brightness tricks our ears and just anything that's brighter sounds better. But it was one I wanted to bring up because it was a great like experience for me, a good note to be like, specifically the character of the vocal and what she is supposed to be feeling in this song, that like really good sounding pop vocal didn't feel like she was saying the right thing. If she's talking about like horrible things that someone has done to her and like how sad she is about it, but she's sounding so perfect and bright and like in your face, it could also it could maybe sound like she's like accusatory or like angry about it, or like she's kind of like trying to tell you what you did wrong to her so that you feel bad about it. But the other way, when she's like hiding a little more and sounding a little more shy. It really is, the song is just about her feeling what she's feeling and not being too confident about it. So yeah, that's that example. And these two more subtle ones, I hope, were to try to make it a little more clear that like I could have shown you the befores, and if it's not your song, you would have been like, great, it's done. But there can be 100 different good sounding mixes of your song. But if you're the artist and you know what you're trying to say, only like one mix is going to be the right one that feels right to you. And you're going to have a note like this, hopefully, and then hopefully you have an engineer that can help you get there. So let's actually just talk about, how do you actually talk about this stuff? First of all, I mean, to communicate your vision, you have to have one. So like you do need to know what you want. And I want to give you some confidence that I think you do know what you want, even if you don't think you do, or you're nervous about it. The biggest thing is knowing who you are, and like having an understanding of what your style is for the music that you put out there, or just what you like to hear in music, and a specific understanding of like the story you're telling in that one song. And be confident in those things, because you will know what you want to hear, even if you can't put it into words beforehand. Like, if you can't put it into words beforehand, if you don't really know, you will be able to react to the first mix and feel if it doesn't feel right, if it's not making you feel the right things, if it's not communicating the thing that you wanted to communicate. Like Fox in that one song started me off with just, it needs to be a banger. But they were able to like react to that first mix and then direct me further of like, oh, hold on, not that kind of banger. Like, let's clarify, it's this kind of banger. Like, it's like lyric and story first kind of thing. So just trust your gut, and like, you actually do know what you want from a mix, even if you don't think you do. Now actually communicating, I mean, it is hard. This is a nice screen right here. This is just, apart from any music at all, I'd like people to, this is a true statement. So like, it's hard to talk about sound. The only words we have to describe sound are loud and quiet. Those are the only words that are specifically about sound. Everything else we use is like borrowed from other senses, like bright, dark, warm, full, punchy, clean, dirty, bouncy. Like, none of those things are about sound at all. So like, it is necessary to talk in metaphor because it's the only words that we do. So it is part of the job of being an engineer to learn, you as the artist, learn your vocabulary. So don't ever apologize for not understanding technical language. Don't feel bad. Like, you're allowed to use your emotional language and your understanding of your song. Use your own vocabulary. Speak in art language. We're making art. Tell the engineer about your song. And if they're like, whoa, what does that mean? The only words all of us are using are all still metaphors. So just don't feel bad about it. And I think what really helps is to focus on the outcome. Like, describe the end goal of what you want someone to feel, or how you want that vocal to be portraying itself. Like, give the engineer something to work towards, rather than trying to describe the sound itself, or like trying to describe a change. When you're making notes, I find it much, much more helpful to just, for you to say what you're looking for. And if you're not getting that yet, you can just say you're not getting that yet, but just reiterate, like, I'm looking to feel this. it's so much better that on that Haley song, the producer was able to say like, the vocal should sound like she's hiding within the band and like putting an arm up so that you're not too close emotionally. That note got me right to the final mix in one revision after they tried a couple times of just saying, can you maybe turn the vocal down a little bit? When they said that, we went through like 3 revisions of not getting far enough. And if you communicate to your engineer just like what you think the change is, they're going to do that change, and it might not be the thing that's needed. It might not be enough. And as the engineer, if I'm given like, can you turn this down 1 dB? I'm just going to do that, not knowing if that's enough, not knowing if it's the right thing to do. But if I'm given the thing that I want to listen for while I'm working, then I'm going to be listening for that while I'm going, and I can go right to what I think is enough. And usually it's way closer. So do that, like make the end goal. Like have a finish line for yourself, give that finish line to the artist or to the engineer. Talking about actually listening, when you get a mix back, like things that might help to get your thoughts together and have some notes. First of all, don't listen like it's your song and like you have to listen for problems. Like just enjoy your music. Like listen as the audience, and go in like intending. Don't look for issues because you'll find them. Like you don't need to have notes. If you get a first mix back and it's perfect and you don't have any thoughts, you're allowed to say, awesome, I love it. Like, don't ever feel like you have to prove yourself by like having something to say, or like prove that you have good enough ears to say something and have a note or something to change. And if you get a mix back and it's perfect, don't fall into the trap of like wanting to have some involvement to then feel like it's good enough and it's done. Like, oh, I need to have like 1 revision because then I feel like I did something and now I know it's done. If you get a mix back the first revision and it's perfect, know that that's because you did a really good job of everything before that mix engineer started. Like if the first mix is perfect, it's because your song is great and the recordings were good and the production is good and the arrangement was great and you did everything you needed to do beforehand to set the song up to be easy to mix. But like try to experience that song like you just listen to other music, and like intend to enjoy it. When you listen to music, I don't think are going in like wanting to hate it or wanting to find problems. Also, when people, at least for me, but I think this is anyone, when you listen to a song that is released, you listen to it in the context of that artist has released this song. So they were probably happy with everything there. So when I hear a song that's out, I hear everything assuming it was intentional and it was the artist's choice and vision. Even if maybe there are things that artist was like, I didn't really get this. Like, I think I still hear that problem and I didn't intend that. This just didn't get to where I wanted it to. When everyone else hears it, it's the only thing they've ever heard and they think you did it all on purpose and they're just going to enjoy it. So when you're listening to your song, try to get as close as you can to that, and just try to enjoy it. And then when you like sit back and just enjoy it, put it on in the background. You definitely need to also like listen to it actively, but listen to it like you listen to other music. And then if anything fully distracts you, if you have it on the background, you're like, oh, what was that? Or if you're listening to it purposefully and it makes you feel something that you didn't want the song to feel, that is a real issue with it. It's not, that mix isn't portraying your song in the way that you wanted to. So then take note of that, and that's your note. And you can make those notes, and talk to the engineer about it. Also, try as best as you can to fight demoitis. Demoitis is just a fun name for when you work on a song for a long time and you've been hearing it how it is for a long time. You get very, very familiar with how you've been listening to it. And familiarity makes you comfortable with it and it makes you think it sounds good. There are things that this is a universal thing. Everyone struggles with this. I have had like productions or things that I've worked on where I get comfortable with how it sounds and it could sound absolutely horrible, but just because you're familiar with it, like you like it better. And to anyone else who hears it for the first time, they're not going to have any of that. So it could actually just sound bad. So as much as you can, try to fight it. And I wouldn't say like just trust the engineer when they say they're fixing something that's true, because you need to feel that it's right for your song. So if you're feeling like, oh, this changed a lot from what it was, first of all, we're going to hope that it doesn't change a lot. We're going to hope that it doesn't have to change a lot, because you're going to try to work with your producer or whoever you're working with in the production and the arrangement and the recordings to have things as best as you can make them and as close to what you're intending as you can. So hopefully when an engineer hears it and hears your intentions, it shouldn't change a lot. And they shouldn't be doing that actually too. So like be confident and know that like you're allowed to set some boundaries and say, if you get a mix back and it feels like totally different than what you had or what you want, don't let them be like, well, I know what's best, so it should be like this. Like you're allowed to set the boundaries. First of all, the song's going to be put out under your name, not theirs. So when they're done their job, they're done, and it has to represent you. So you need to be happy with it. Second of all, you're the only one who knows what's right for your song because it's yours. And the nuance of how you're telling your story, how you want to come across to the audience, all those things, you're in charge of that. You're the only one who's like has final say. So if you had things that you really worked hard on in the production and then the engineer for some reason is changing it, feel that it is within your right to be like, look, that was actually good already. Like, I love that. We worked hard on it. Don't do that. And if you have any questions about, after when we're done, we're going to open up for questions. If you have questions about like where those boundaries are, what are you allowed to say, like, hey, engineer, that's not your job? Definitely ask me about like, what are those things? But a good tip for demoitis basically is just like taking a break. Like, just don't listen to it for a week or something. Just do what you need to do to forget about what the previous version sounded like, so that you can try to like wipe your ears clean. And then when you go in and you listen to whatever the new thing is, you can just experience it like as much as possible, like it's new. Just to top it off, I have some like miscellaneous practical things that I just put all on one screen. Because I did get some questions from all of you earlier on in the week, and there were some that I wanted to make sure I just put them in here, and then you can feel free to ask me. But like a thing of working with an engineer on like rates and how much it costs and stuff, it's going to vary by person to person. Like with any freelancing thing, engineers are going to be freelancers. They're individual businesses that just sort of set their own rules, and they set how they work and they set what they charge. There's maybe going to be some sort of like ballpark depending on where you are. If it is kind of more local, which is more a thing with producers, if you're like going in person, it's going to be very local. You can hire a mix engineer from across the entire globe. So then that's not going to be very focused on area either, although maybe their rate is still going to be focused like based on their local area. But don't be afraid to like have the conversation. Everyone should be able to like be willing to talk to you and negotiate and figure it out. You also want to find someone who is excited to work on your music And so you shouldn't be in a situation where like you ask one question about the rate and try to make it worth within your budget, and they're like, no, it's a hard take it or leave it. You want to find someone who's like creatively invested in your song, and if you share the demo with them, they're like, damn, like I love this, I want to be a part of it. Maybe I'm feeling emotionally that I actually want to like try to make the deal, or I want to make your budget work because I want to be on your song. If you find someone like that, then hopefully it'll make you feel comfortable in having these conversations. Also, if you're making an EP or an album, it's pretty common. Like, there's not a lot of things that like you can expect to be a thing that every engineer is going to do, but this is one thing that I would expect from most people. If you want to commit to a whole EP or a whole album, it's likely going to take the per song rate down, and you can make some sort of like package deal. I would say if you're going into something like that and wanting that, what you should expect to do is be having all of that ready for them at the same time, or at least like while they are mixing the first two, you're like finishing up the last one. It should be like, if we're going to do a multi-song deal, we're going to do that and we're going to know when it's finished, and like you're going to have a timeline for release date and all that. Some people might be really lax about it and be like, let's sign a multi-song deal just whenever you want in the next year, hit me up for the next song. It's likely that most people will see that as like, well, that's just what people do when they make singles with me anyways. On deadlines, when you're working with an engineer, it really helps for, first of all, you to be prepared and like planned ahead for what your timeline is, and your deadline, and if you have a release date set. But then communicating that to the engineer, it really helps for the engineer to be able to schedule it, but also so you go into it knowing like I know that I'm going to get this done and it's going to be released. So if you have all that set beforehand, even if you want to reach out to someone before the production is done, so that you know you have them locked in, if you really want to like and be the like project manager of your project, like when you're talking to someone about writing and picking a producer, like go all the way to finding the master engineer at the end, and like have a conversation with everyone to know what all their rates are, know that you can afford the budget. And then if you have some sort of timeline, you can like warn the engineer, we're probably going to be done the production at this time if you can have time available. And then that is going to help you fit into people's calendars if they're busy a lot easier, instead of finishing your thing, now having to find someone to hire, having a bunch of rate conversations, seeing if people are free. You find out that they're booked up for 2 months and they're not free. So that's going to help a little bit. A thing on what you're going to get at the end of a mix from an engineer. Alt mixes are a thing that they're going to be very useful for you as an artist in your career. Things like an instrumental and the main master is like bare minimum what you need for a sync opportunity. You're going to need to deliver both of those things to, if you're getting a sync in a commercial or something, or anything, they need to be able to like fade in between, basically just to take the vocal out and put the vocal back in, because they need to have dialogue on screen and whatever. So at least you need to get an instrumental if you are looking to have a sync opportunity. And hopefully you find someone that's willing to just give you all this anyways, so that you're prepared. In 2 years, if you have an opportunity and someone asks you about your song and whatever, you don't want to have to go back to the engineer from 2 years ago to be like, I hope you still have those sessions. Can you find it on an old hard drive and try to print out an instrumental for me? An acapella is less used. It's like kind of more for like remixes. TV track is like these are the three like main most common things. TV track is all the background vocals in and just the main lead vocal taken out. Mainly it's used for like if you have a solo performance. If you go on like a morning show on TV, you can't have a band. They just need a track and you want to be supported by all your background vocals. So that's what that's used for. A thing on committing to your production stuff, like I said about the ingredients, you're going to decide if you're going to have sauteed onions, and then you want to then provide those sauteed onions to the person who's going to put the soup together. You're not going to be like, well, you know what? Like I decided it was going to be sauteed onions, but I think the engineer can saute the onions better than me, so let me like unsaute them and make them do it all again. You want to commit as much as possible. All of your like production decisions, your processing, your shaping of like the tone and character of each instrument. That's like, it's part of your building that song. And I think you'll find that most engineers are going to prefer that you just commit to everything you can and have the engineer be able to pick up where you left off. So they can just then focus on the relationships between those things instead of hearing something in the rough mix, hearing the track and going, oh, this is like, it doesn't sound like that. And I have to try to recreate how it sounds. So if you're unsure of anything, you can send the like processed version and then have a backup of like taking all the plugins off and sending that. And the engineer hopefully will default to all your wet stuff, your process stuff, and then only look for a backup if there's a problem. And the same thing goes for if you have a singular guitar part that is made up of a left and a right, but they're like, that is one guitar part. I would say, feel free to print that down to a stereo track and give the engineer that so that the engineer can treat that as this is the guitar part. I don't have to think of it as two things. The same thing for like if you're doing a big background vocal stack, part of like putting that together and the performance of it and the writing of it is the blend between each harmony. So when you're building it, you're deciding the really high one is at this level and compared to the lower one has to be this loud. When you have that blend, like commit to that. That's part of the thing. Print it out as a stereo thing and then send that. And the mix engineer can just treat that as like, that is what it is. That vocal stack is one part. It isn't 10 different vocals in the way that it is portrayed in the song. And then again, if you want, just like you can send the individual ones in a folder as a backup if they have to, if they have some sort of problem. Yeah, that's it. I would love to hear some questions if there is any, but thank you for listening to me ramble for so long. I hope everything was helpful. I like talking about this stuff, obviously, if you can't tell. So not only should we do questions right now, like here's my stuff, follow me on Instagram anytime you want, like shoot me a message and I would love to chat about stuff. About mixing, about like the philosophy stuff, which is obviously what I like. But shoot me a question anytime. We can even schedule a video call and like hang out for half an hour and talk. So yeah, feel free to contact me for any reason. But let's see if there's some questions.
We don't have any questions right now, but I'm sure do that. Thank you so much, Luke. That was great.
Of course, thank you.
Yeah, we'll just give them a minute to if you guys have any questions.
Also, Emma, if you feel like you can think of anything that either I didn't cover or could be clarified more.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I need a minute to think of one too. Give me a minute.
I hope it was cool with how like heady I was. Like it's just kind of philosophy stuff. It's like how to think about things. That's how I think of everything. I don't think super technical about mixing. because of all the things I just said. Like it is, we're making art and there's no right way to do it. There's no rules. It's probably important to break all the rules. Um, so and I this is the way I like to talk to specifically artists about mixing, because I think it's way more important. It's not important for you as an artist to like know all the technical stuff and know the technical language, and let alone like definitely you shouldn't have to be able to do it yourself and you're just hiring someone because like time or whatever. Um, like I think the most important thing for artists to know about mixing is just what's possible, how to talk about it, um, and like just how to think about it in the way that like it is a part of your creative process in the process of making your art. It's not this required technical thing you have to do at the end just because it's supposed to sound like something. Um, Emma, feel free to interrupt me anytime there's a question.
You're just waiting. Oh, you have more of a personal question, Fluke. So, oh, sorry, wait. Do you have a favorite song you've worked on?
I don't even have a favorite song I've listened to. Like, I am not good for favorites because it would be probably different every day. A favorite song I've worked on would probably just be kind of like the most recent thing. Um, but if you go to my website to the music page, there is kind of like curated lists of things that I've worked on that are in different kind of styles or whatever, and that is curated for like things I am really proud of or I think shows off things I love. Um, so there's like a big collection of favorites. I can't choose one, but there's like 6 lists of like 10 different songs. That's as much as I can whittle it down.
We have, do mixers have a specific genre that they work in best, despite mixing not really having any rules?
I think people will definitely have specialties. It doesn't mean that an engineer is incapable of doing something, but it does mean that they can be better at something else. And it's mostly just about your instincts. If you're really either used to working on a specific thing or used to listening, like your tastes on the music that you like, um, you're going to just have the instincts to do similar things over and over again. So there have been times where I've felt challenged by a project, like it's outside of what I normally do, or it's just sort of like challenging my instincts. Which honestly, that Haley song that I showed you is one that did that. That has nothing to do with genre though, because I've done so much like indie folk like that. But it was at least at the time where like 95% of all the songs I was doing for like the 6 months before that were like radio pop, radio pop. So my instincts told me on the first mix, let's make the vocals super bright and upfront and whatever. All it's going to take is just some communication for the engineer to just be able to like figure out what to do and work against their instincts if they have to. So it doesn't mean an engineer is going to be incapable. It might mean like it'll take a couple more revisions or a little extra time for them. Um, but I would look for an engineer, not necessarily, unless you work in a genre that's like so specific, which some are, but like the most popular music genres aren't like that. I would look for an engineer where you like not the genre that they work in, but you like how they treat certain things. Um, if an artist listens to my stuff from pop stuff to folk stuff to like R&B to like all different stuff, but they like how I present a vocal in relation to the rest of the track usually, then that is going to be the thing they're like, okay, you'll probably do what I want you to do, even if I'm going to ask you to mix a totally different genre. So I would look for things like that.
We have as a follow-up, would the processes be of doing the mix be different depending on the genre? Like, would your advice for a more pop artist be different than that for a metal artist?
I think it's very much the same. Like sometimes there's differences only in like uh how much still needs to be done or how detailed it needs to be. Like there are genres, like there can be rap songs that like it's just kind of a stereo instrumental track and then it's just kind of putting the vocals on top, where like there's a little less you're asking the engineer to do. There are genres that are more heavily processed and more well baked in the production, and there are genres that are maybe a little uh less baked and need the mixer to do a little more. um but I think the way that you're going to talk about your intentions and your vision with the engineer is basically the same. Also, here's a big distinction. I've been talking very much about like the message of the song and the story and all these things. And maybe that can feel kind of genre dependent to like that's I'm kind of talking to like singer-songwriter, folk artists or whatever. But when I use those words, that could apply the exact same to like a club EDM song. Because like the story of the song or the message or the intention, maybe intention is the better word, because the intention of a song could just be like, I need this to come on in the club and people will have no choice but to dance. And if that's the goal, then the engineer is going to think of that while making all their decisions. So you always, no matter what kind of music you're making, you always have some kind of goal of something you want people to do while they're listening, what you want them to feel, all that stuff.
We have some more. Do
Yay.
you ever find yourself adjusting the mix too much, like being too much of a perfectionist?
Emma knows, yes. I have been like I've been figuring out how much of a perfectionist I am recently and like really trying to deal with it. So absolutely. And that's kind of my own stuff that has nothing to do with like the artist, but that's me from the engineer side learning how much is expected at what time. Um, like the first draft maybe doesn't have to be absolutely perfect and releasable, but maybe it's best to get the artist in early and start to get their opinions on how it's going. Um, but yes, in terms of like, do I find myself changing it too much? Um, that is, I think, separate from the perfectionism thing. The like, if I'm changing it too much in terms of like how the song is sounding, how it's feeling, how the song is presenting itself, that's not a I want it to be perfect issue. That's like I don't understand the vision, or I'm not on the same page as the artist was. Or just like we didn't talk enough and I don't trust that the rough mix is actually close to what they wanted. So I have to like have this vision in my head of like what I actually think they want. And if that's totally different, then I'm changing it too much. So that's something I have to check myself on about, like refer back to my notes. I anytime I talk to an artist about what they're looking for and what the song is like and what it should feel like, I'm writing notes. And before every session, I read the notes to get myself in like the headspace of the song. And if I ever need to check back, I check back. And it's really useful to check back on like the priorities that I've written down. If I'm like working too much on a thing, or I think this sound is really cool and like I have the want to make it really loud, I think it's cool. If I refer back to the notes, I go like, oh, you know what? That is not what the song is about. Like that's a background thing. Put it back to the background. Like regroup back to what the song is. Um, so that is like a being on the same page of the direction thing. Perfectionism, I think, is a different thing. Um, where like I could be going in the right direction, and then I just spend an hour doing like a bunch of tiny minuscule things that no one's ever going to hear, including the artist. And then that's the stuff that like, that's just perfectionism. It's only stopping you from getting things done and getting things out. And it's not actually like it's not hurting, but it's not helping either. So, which I assume everyone has the experience of when you're writing a song, when you're recording it, when you're making anything. At some point you have to be like, it is gonna serve me more to just actually have people hear this than to spend more time kind of doing nothing to it.
We have sort of on this topic, you're talking about how you make notes. We have an artist asking what your take is on mixing guides, like a PDF document with the lyrics, chords, arrangement suggestions, describing the story and explaining the vision from feeling, sound, including references. And they've had some experience with producers that don't like receiving a guide.
I mean, I think you're going to come across different people who like different things. To me, it sounds like you're an artist that I would love to work with. Like, I would love that. It like whether it's because I want to actually look through it and I think I'm going to get a lot from it, or just the minimum of like it shows that at least you've thought about it all. Like that shows to me how much effort and thought that you've put into the thing. So I have the confidence to know that if I show you something and you say you like it, I know that you've really considered it. And I know that if I have a question, you're probably going to have an answer because you thought about all this stuff already. To me, that's only a good thing. I've had people like make me slide decks. I've had people like have spreadsheets and like, I love that. And I think a lyric sheet is helpful if to just be able to like read through it. But if you've come across people that don't like that, it's just going to be like their preference. I would hope that like the worst case is they're like, I'm just not going to read that rather than like actually being annoyed. Like, what does it hurt them if you send them a thing? But if that's important, if that's the way that you think, I think it's probably important that you find someone to work with that thinks the same way. If you're going to make a spreadsheet about your song, then you're going to work well with the person who would love to read the spreadsheet. And you'll feel out if you're going to work well with the person who's like, I'm just going to go by vibes and like not talk about it. So yeah, that's up to you.
And we have, when starting a mix session, would you recommend mixing certain instruments and elements before others? Like, should you start with drums and then only work on vocals last, or does it not really matter that much?
That is it's a personal preference, and it can also be like on a per song basis. Like for me, I might have some personal preferences of like what I think is the easiest to make like the base building block. Sometimes I can think like if there's a song that has like a full drum kit in it, the whole song, it would be maybe hard for me to mix everything else and then like fit a drum kit into it. It's easy for that being like the base that I can build off of. It helps like direct where everything else needs to be. But another song, I might do the opposite. And it's because of like, if I'm going into the song knowing like what is the base identity of the song, what's the most important thing, then it might be smart to start with that and bring everything else in around it. So if this is like a really vocal heavy song that's just mainly about the vocal, it would help keep that to be true, to put the vocal where it's going to be first. And then when you're bringing everything else in, it has to fit around the vocal, which will just keep the vocal be the center point. Another note on that though is like when you're talking about what should I mix first, I don't mean that you should like make a bunch of final like processing decisions on things first before you even have other things turned up. Um, like I said, everything is about how it feels in context. And a lot of the times when you want this thing to feel a certain way, you need to just do something to this thing. So you need to be doing everything in the context of the full mix as much as you can. There are certain things that, like, for me, there's always a point where I get enough faders up that I'm like, okay, this is the song. And now I can start like making my decisions. And if I have like some ad libs or background vocals or something else not turned up yet, those are the things that make sense where like I can get the song and then I can add that in and it makes sense that that is a thing that's added in. But like there's no way I can decide on the final tone of all the things until I'm actually hearing it and how it stacks up against everything else. So get as much as you can turned up with the faders first before you actually like mix.
I have a question. Have you ever had an experience of somebody giving you a metaphor or for the feeling they want in the song and you've just been completely stuck and not sure what to do to capture that feeling?
I don't think so, honestly. Like I'm sure, I don't know, maybe one of these days I'll have one that completely makes no sense to me, but I think like the only time I've had breakdowns in communication is when the artist is trying to speak my language. And they're just like using the wrong terms because they are unfamiliar or something, and then it gets confusing. Um, but I, I feel like anytime someone's really used their language and given a crazy metaphor or whatever, um, whether like sometimes I know exactly like to the T what they mean. Sometimes it's just like you get a feeling from it. And you can use that with all the other things they've said and how they tend to talk and listening to their music to sort of like figure it out. It's crazy that how much this job is about like figuring people's brains out rather than like turning knobs and making something sound good. But it's because I'm not supposed to make something sound good. I'm supposed to make something sound like you want it to sound. So the whole thing is about like getting into your head and like making my ears into your ears. Um, so I think the more that you can just like use your own language and give context of who you are and how you think to the person, the more they're going to be able to do that.
Thanks. It doesn't look like we have any more lingering questions, so I'm going to read my outro.
Nice.
Yeah. On behalf of the Canadian Musicians Cooperative, we would like to thank you, Luke, for sharing your experience, knowledge, and resources. For anyone watching this live stream publicly, we have more public work. Actually, we don't have any more public workshops. This is our last one for the summer. But you can catch us at our Barnes to Beaches showcase tour this weekend and find more information on our website, www.canadianmusicians.coop. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And thank you again, Luke, for your presentation today.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I would love to hear from all of you if you have any questions or just want to chat or like tell me what you thought on Instagram. So feel free. I realized I didn't have the chat open. So now I'm looking through the chat to see what people were talking about. But yeah, thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming. Okay, so announcement for the artists, we have the feedback form in the chat. And then Claire is going to tell you what we're doing next. And you'll be going on your break now. So Luke, I'll bring you into the